Hello and welcome to the Election Corner on One Man Think Tank. Today I'm bringing you my 2020 Senate election prediction for the first week of October. This will be October 3rd through October 10th. Before we go in, we need to talk about something rather severe. As you know, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is currently in the hospital for a disease which, if I say, will kill me in the algorithm. Now, there's from sources and information trickling out. That's part of the reason this video is so late today. I've been waiting for more information as it's been released. There's been more information and more leaks. Now, the issue with this White House is they are never open and honest. That can be said, they obscure information and refuse to bring it out. So there's a chance that these leaks are misplaced or misunderstood, or they are totally legitimate. And for those of you who don't know, the leaks are saying he is in critical condition, and the next 48 hours might decide if he makes it through the week. This is not information I am saying with any semblance of joy or support of. As you know, I am not the biggest fan of the president, but I'm also trying to be apolitical and a bit humane here. With all this being said and the information put forward, I am going to act like he will recover, because there is still a solid chance of that. Ignoring the president's underlying health conditions and supreme risk of being in danger from COVID, I will treat it as though he will recover. With that being said, should he not recover, this video will not be as valid. I might touch on some of the changes in prediction near the end there, but in practice, this video can't be valid in a world where Donald Trump is dead. If that happens, I will immediately upload a new video for the Senate with a prediction after his passing. So just be aware of that if you're watching this video, and it turns out the president was more severe than we thought, don't trust it. Because not everything will line up the same. I will do the exact same thing for the presidential election prediction. So, with all that being said, let's actually dive into the prediction. Now, any state you see on the board is a safe seat. As I knock down a large bag off my desk. But they're safe seats. If they are likely seats, then they are flips. I will never put a flip with an incumbent as safe. Incumbency bias is too great of an effect, but as you can see already, the Democrats have 50 seats. Yeah, North Carolina and Maine have solidified against the Republican Party. They are genuinely solidly opposed to their GOP candidates. Susan Collins in Maine does not seem to have received any respite by stating she is anti-Supreme Court hearing, though apparently now that multiple GOP senators have not conducted, I've forgotten the word, have gotten coronavirus, they will be, she has lost her hall pass, so if it does come to a full vote, which apparently it won't, the Senate just went on recess until the 19th with a solid belief that even though they will try and push forward with the confirmation on the 12th, there's a solid chance that it won't go anywhere super fast and the actual vote won't happen till after the election. So Susan Collins, supreme danger, and Cal Cunningham, I have heard about apparently he's having an affair. Tom Tillis is not only one of the people who got COVID, but is part of the reason COVID has spread. At this point, I don't think in this election you can try and measure morals as a way to win your seat when one party still is relying on Donald Trump as their beacon of morals. Meanwhile, the Republicans have one pickup, which is Alabama. That's not too shocking. And these two states have been so in favor of the Democrats, with the Democrat candidate earning over 50% of the vote regularly, and the Republicans not even coming close. They are safe. Democrat in practice, but in theory, so safe Democrat in theory, but in practice, they are still likely states. So here are the remaining ones. Are there any likely states? Nope. The GOP is in a bad position. This map is condensing against them. All the states you see on the board right now, all 7 states and 8 races are toss-ups. It's a question of how likely they are to flip. So what we'll do is we'll go, let's say, alphabetical order this time. Starting with Alaska. Alaska right now leans Republican. The Alaska race has been incredibly competitive. And what we've seen is the independent challenger, but de facto Democratic challenger, Gross, is currently usually tied with incumbent Sullivan, who has stupidly high unfavorables. Now, Alaska is a state that historically has voted Republican, and I see no reason to believe why it won't continue to vote Republican. But it is a tight race. You don't want to be an incumbent who's constantly tied. And when we get to Lindsey Graham, you'll really hear why. But for right now, Alaska leans Republican. Another leans Republican race, screw going in alphabetical order, is Texas. Texas has gone from likely to leans, though it is not in tilt. This is just due to the fact that the Republican incumbent has consistently failed to hit 50% in the polling, and while it can be assumed that he will obtain the last about 8% of undecided voters to put him over the top by far, the fact he is polling incredibly low and there are a large quantity of undecided voters means that if anything should happen, specifically in the Texas Senate race, that could cause those undecided voters to not turn out or go to the Democrat. He's in a bad way, so Texas is also leans. Also, sorry if there are any voice issues. I suffer from allergies this time of year and am currently waiting for all the medications to kick in properly. Where next? Montana. Montana, it remains another leans Republican state, with Steve Daines, despite doing okay in 2 debates versus Steve Bullock, still polling quite well. Mostly benefiting from the fact that Steve Bullock has held a consistent floor of about 46% of the vote, but hasn't seemed to been able to get much higher than that with a ceiling of around 48%, while incumbent Daines has held about 48 to 50%, guaranteeing him a win most of the time. But like I said, he's had a poor debate performance and has had multiple scandals in the past couple of days in a race that he previously was expected to win in double digits. As such, it is also leans Republican. Down to Kansas, the first big change, which is Kansas going from leans to tilt. This is due to the fact we're now getting some polling, even if it is internal polling, showing the Democratic candidate is gaining. You see, back about a month and 2 months ago, we've had internal polling come out from the Democratic candidate, which showed her behind. This is Barbara Boiler, who's behind Marshall. She is slowly gaining on him and has now released her first number of polls showing her ahead of him. Now, keep in mind, these polls include a large quantity of either undecided voters or voters splitting for the Libertarian candidate. However, I will say the only polls which do show the Republican candidate ahead, and this includes nonpartisan polls, are ones which do not include the Libertarian candidate. If you factor in the Libertarian candidate, you end up with quite a few Republican voters going to the Libertarian. This does not mean the Libertarian is going to see something like 9% in the polls, but it could indicate that there is a genuine dislike of the Republican candidate amongst the voting base, and if they could go in and, let's say, vote Trump and Libertarian, they may do it. In Iowa, we have some good news for the Democrats. Iowa remains tilt Democratic. This is due to the fact that Iowa, for lack of a better term, has been getting notably more blue in the lead up to the election. Joe Biden's numbers have been steadily increasing, as have the as have the Democratic challenger, Greenfield, to the incumbent, Joni Ernst. As she gains more support, it is likely that the state will only look more blue. So, Iowa, tilt blue for right now. Now for the fun ones. We'll do Georgia last, so we'll do South Carolina up next. South Carolina is tilt Republican, not a change from last time. For you see, South Carolina's race is based on the concept of, oops, Lindsey Graham's not the man who he said he was. And Lindsey Graham has decided to run on the logic of, I'm not the man I said I was. Which, great way to make an election about yourself when you have low favorabilities. You don't want an election to be a referendum on you. You want it to be either a choice between you and the other guy, or whose party do you like more? Especially when you're in a state that's biased towards you, but Lindsey Graham has managed to make the race about, is Lindsey Graham trustable? This has also put Lindsey in a fantastic position where he is simultaneously too conservative for the moderates and too moderate for the conservatives. He's too moderate for the conservatives due to his long-standing history of being moderate in the Senate, and he's too conservative for the moderates due to the fact he's taken a heel-face turn right around when John McCain died to become a hardcore conservative. Thus meaning there are now the Senate race is incredibly close. Also the fact we're getting multiple polls, including a very good tracker poll by Morning Consult, showing that Jamie Harrison is at the very least neck and neck with him, if not periodically peeking ahead. Now, he's not peeking ahead enough for the state to be in any way favorable to the Democrats. A tilt South Carolina is very favorable to the Democrats, but I mean actually in favor of the Democrats. But it means Lindsey Graham is feeling the heat, so to say. And in Georgia, we have 2 elections, and they are... One, the main election is tilt Republican. This is due to the fact that the Democratic challenger, John Ossoff, is his name John? Oh, shoot. Well, Ossoff is successfully polling close to being ahead, to either close to or ahead of the incumbent Perdue. Now, Perdue still has an advantage in the fact that this is usually they're tied when there's about 8% of people who are undecided, meaning a 46 to 46 race as opposed to 48 to 50 race. So he still has the favorabilities of undecideds breaking towards him. However, there is a clear and direct trend in the state that right now Georgia is looking a hell of a lot more blue, or at least leaning in that direction. And the last state, or last race, and another one to benefit from this trend is Georgia's special election, which for right now leans Republican. But I will say we are getting some good polling out. Raphael Warnock has consolidated a good chunk of the Democratic voting base behind him, almost guaranteeing he will make it to the special election. The real question is who gets the Republican nomination. If it's Kelly Loeffler, I'm actually willing to put Georgia's special election as being tilt Democratic. But if it's Collins, it's going to remain leans Republican. As such, I'm going to assume it's Collins. This is due to the fact that Loeffler has managed to be at best a controversial figure in Georgia, and on the national stage, but also has multiple scandals under her belt. Well, Collins has not, and can basically benefit from not having been involved in this current Republican mess, and will know how things shook out in the general election when it comes time to campaign for the runoff. So here you have it. Democrats at 51 seats, Republicans at 49, and overall Republicans aren't looking so hot in 7 of their seats that are up for contention. So I said I would loosely drop this in case you're watching the video and Trump has in fact passed away before I've uploaded my update. If Trump passes away, it's going to mean one big thing. There are going to be people who will say, well, this means the moderates will just turn back to Trump immediately. That's not the case. One, the senators of their own have now lost a bunch of support in the polls, not necessarily correlating with Donald Trump's own favorabilities or numbers, indicating that just being a Republican might be a toxic brand right now. But also, more importantly, without Trump on the ballot, there will be a sudden drop in that key, what I will refer to as Trumpian support, the really rage, angry voters, who many of these senators have tanked their own reputations trying to court, including Ernst, South Carolina, North Carolina, all of them. If they don't show up, there's a solid chance that that we will see a high Democratic turnout election because they still hate the GOP, and a low Republican turnout. And here's another really important thing about this. Many people have already cast their ballots. It's looking like more and more of them are Democrats. You don't want, while Republicans are narrowing their time span for turning people out to vote in red states, this could very well cost them the election. Just low Republican turnout, medium to high Democratic turnout. At least one of these races down here is going to flip, if not multiple. So with all that being said, if you like the video, click the like button and drop a comment down below. If you want to see more from the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. If you want to hear more from me outside of YouTube, I have a Twitter at OneManThinkTan1, the Roman numeral, link down in the description. And lastly, most importantly, stay healthy, everyone, and have a wonderful day.